Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this video, we are doing a top 10 list, which is by far the most requested top 10 list that I get every single year. You guys seem to like hearing me talk about bad figures, so I figure what the heck, let's give the people what they want. These are the 10 worst figures that I've reviewed of 2019. Now before we get into it, I just want to point out, not all of these figures are without some redeeming qualities. Some of them have some good things about them, but it just wasn't enough. All of the figures on this list are figures which I would definitely recommend you do not buy for various reasons, and we're going to talk about those in the following video. So let's go ahead and get things started with number 10. Coming in at number 10, we have the DC Multiverse Batman Beyond figure. One of the figures I think most people had such high hopes for, but really low expectations. And unfortunately, it met the expectations. We did not get a good figure of Batman Beyond. There's almost nothing good about this except maybe the clean paint on the chest. The accessories he got were reused from another figure and they didn't fit this figure at all. They didn't have the right sculpt or paint on them, at least for the wings. The head is too big, the body is part satin and completely flat if you look at the forearms, the articulation is dated and terrible, and the sculpt has the anatomy of somebody who doesn't know anatomy. So yes, it is quite a bad release. If it wasn't for the character, I don't think anybody would have bought this. Coming in at number 9, we have the Arm SpiderMan figure. Now I know I didn't give this figure as much flack as many people thought I should, but that doesn't mean it was a good figure. It just had some things about it that weren't completely terrible. However, it's still one of the worst figures. This thing was a mess from conception. Why does it use a movie Spider-Man body? Why does it use a body which has almost no articulation? Why are the proportions so terrible? Why doesn't it have any paint? Why are the colors so vibrant? Why are any of these things when it could have been so easy to make a good figure? Coming in at number 8, we have the Figma Overwatch Reaper figure. Now the thing about Reaper is, at first glance, he looks pretty darn cool. It's got a lot of detail, it's got paint and presumably decent articulation, and it turns out that almost none of those things are actually any good. The paint on this guy is probably the only thing that holds up. The articulation is all but unusable due to engineering or the fact that his weapons are too heavy or too big or the effect parts are too heavy. And also, you can't pose his head, you can't move the hood at all, there's a big gap underneath the hood, and the head is really tiny. Just another example of how Figma has totally pooed the bed with this Overwatch line. Coming in at number 7, we have the Marvel Legends Nighthawk figure. Now Nighthawk is not necessarily the most well-known character, but he still has a pretty cool character design, and somehow Hasbro managed to make this guy look about as frumpy as possible. The only redeeming characteristic for this guy is they actually did a pretty good job with the cape. It sits on the figure relatively well, it's got a decent enough sculpt, but the figure itself, oh boy is it dopey looking. His claws they look like popsicle sticks. They look like shiny popsicle sticks. The paint job on him is one of the worst we've ever seen, especially considering he's got almost no paint, and his face looks goofy too. Coming in at number 6, we have the McFarlane Toys Mortal Kombat 11 Sub-Zero. And while this guy does have some redeeming characteristics in the paint and the face, just about everything else is bad. His articulation is not particularly usable, his proportions are terrible, the sculpts are not good, and the engineering is absolutely abysmal. Coming in at number 5, we have the DC Multiverse Red Hood figure. Now this one is a treat. This one's head is way too big. They didn't paint his boots. They gave him holsters which have guns molded in. They gave him alternate hands to hold weapons or other accessories, and yet he has no accessories. The only accessories this guy gets are alternate hands to hold nothing. And his head is too big. Did I mention his head is too big? It's way too big. Also, it's a terrible sculpt for the head. Coming in at number 4, we have the McFarlane Toys Scorpion, which is the reason I didn't talk that much about Sub-Zero, because Scorpion here is like Sub-Zero, but worse. The paint on this guy is disgusting. None of the yellows match. The plastics are terrible. The skin tone is terrible. The sculpt is terrible. The accessories are terrible. They break. They barely connect to the figure. The head isn't a head, it's just a face connected to a ball peg that floats inside the hood. It can't look down, you can barely pose it. The hood doesn't move well. None of the articulation really works at all. The proportions are gross. I think I've just listed everything, and I did it really quickly because I want to stop looking at this figure. Coming in at number 3, we have the Marvel Legends Cannonball figure. Now this guy, oh boy is that face ugly. It's just disgusting how terrible that sculpt is. The paint doesn't help, but it looks like he's trying to push out a poop. On top of that, it's only half a figure. There's really nothing else I need to say. It's only half a figure. Coming in at number 2, we have another McFarlane Toys entry with the Doomslayer figure. Now this guy might look decent at first glance. I would encourage you to check the review if you don't believe me from this video. This guy is an embarrassment for the company. Not only is the paint terrible, it hides the sculpt that's actually somewhat decent, but the figure can't be posed. It's almost completely imposable. Impossible to pose. Imposable. See what it's a thing. Anyway, it's just about as bad as you can get. If it wasn't for the shiny visor and the somewhat decent sculpt underneath that terrible paint, this guy would have 0 redeeming qualities altogether. Coming in at number 1, we have Dick. This is the Dick Grayson version of Batman, wherein he is not Bruce Wayne, but rather his name is Dick, and he's supposed to be a little bit thinner, maybe sometimes, depending on the artist, but this is, of course, an action figure, and not only did they make him thin, but they made his anatomy look absolutely terrible. It looks like he's powered up on soy lattes. His cape doesn't fit his body. His shoulders don't fit into his body particularly well. You can see there's big meat flaps going all the way around. The articulation is really terrible. He doesn't have any accessories. The head is really goofy. Oh boy. I mean, it's just... oh man, just looking at it. Oh, I forgot the torso was broken. He's got gripping hands, by the way. He can't punch. Doesn't have anything to hold, like I mentioned. No accessories. There's nothing good about this, except, I guess, the clean paint job for the Bat logo. Man, I forgot how bad this was until I started looking at it for this video. Is this the one I threw in the toilet? I think this is the one I threw in the toilet. This one belongs in the toilet. I don't know how a company like Mattel, one of the biggest, if not the biggest toy companies in the world, can produce something like this. Absolutely disgusting. Embarrassing. Alrighty guys, that's my top 10 list of the worst releases this year. I went kind of fast because I just can't take looking at this crap anymore. I spent money on all these things and I regret it completely, and I don't want you to have to do it. That's why I make my videos the way I do. I want to help you guys, so hopefully I did. If you saw my reviews before you bought these, all I can say is I hope you didn't buy them. It's very unfortunate, but that is the way it is. If you guys disagree with anything I said, though, do let me know in the comment section below. And if you want to let me know what your top 10 worst figures are, go ahead and put that in the comment section as well. I always do read the comments, even though I don't reply to every single one. I do read them, and so I'm happy if you guys participate. That's always a good thing. And I guess that'll do it. I'm not going to ask for any more top 10 videos because we're ending up the year here. I've already got 2 more in the can, so those will be coming up soon. And I guess that'll do it, guys. So, again, thanks for watching, and make sure you subscribe so you do see when those new videos come out. And in the meantime, keep collecting.